Right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Scenes with Capital Credit Union. Today we're joined by Boyle, who's now the non-executive director of the board of directors at Capital Credit Union. Liam, let's start with how you first became aware of a credit union.
Well, credit unions in general I was always familiar with. I grew up, my parents had saved with the credit union, and there was one across my parents' hairdressing shop when I was a kid, so it was always in my face. My own personal journey started, probably 12 years ago.
Yep.
I just had my oldest son Lucas back in 2012, and I was thinking obviously of buying my first property.
So how did you come about applying for the position of non-executive director, and obviously then how eager were you for them to get back in touch and for you to be part of the journey with Capital Credit Union?
Initially I'd seen the advert had come up through Marlene Shields, who's the CEO of Capital Credit Union. I follow her on LinkedIn, so I've been following closely the journey of the credit union as an interested member, first and foremost, to see what's going on, what they're doing, with my money and all the other members' money. So when the job had came up, or the role for volunteer director, I thought it was a really good fit, as they were looking for, one of the roles was for a marketing-based person, which fits into obviously my background. So I was really keen to first and foremost reach out directly to Marlene, ask, could I put my name forward for it, and then, I was really keen for them to come back.
And obviously it's a volunteer role. How do you think that plays a positive impact on the union in terms of that profitability aspect side of stuff, and it not having obviously a huge drive on what a bank would have? Yeah,
well, obviously the volunteer role helps because it's got a variety of expertise on the board. Something we've introduced recently is board members buddying up with staff as well. So that's really like utilising some expertise. We've got people that have worked within banks, we've got people, counsellors, we've got, myself with a marketing background. So being able to team up and use your skill sets with people that are employed within the business has really helped drive the business forward, especially in the last sort of 8-9 months since I've been on the board.
You've obviously got a very strong background in sales and marketing, having your own marketing agency. How do you think that helps you being part of the board of directors, and what qualities do you think that brings to the board as well?
I think because I do my own business, and it's a small business, so it's like anything else, you wear a lot of hats when you run a small business, so you're doing a lot of different roles within it. So from setting the business up, to strategically planning the decisions of the business, to sitting down with an accountant and going through accounts, to the actual day-to-day duties of running the business, implementing things, fulfilling jobs, etc. You kind of wear a lot of hats, so you can be multi-skilled within it, which really helps. But one of the really positive things to come out of it is teaming up with the business development team, which is a fantastic team within Capital Credit Union. And I've been able to use my business and what's worked really well to help that business development team sort of make quicker decisions in terms of what's worked for me for different clients within a similar sector, and it's been able to implement things for them.
In terms of that business experience, we are in a climate right now that is very uncertain. The economy is very difficult for business owners, how that then impacts their family. What experience and your experiences in terms of what you've gone through with that can you bring to the board, and how do you think, as a business owner yourself, you can help the board understand the challenges that might bring to families?
I think first and foremost, as a board member, I can actually bring real life experience to the board because I'm a member first.
Yep.
Before I'm a board member. So I can live and breathe decisions that I've made and feedback that I've had from Capital Credit Union. So to give a sort of related story effectively is, there's things that have come up in board meetings and people were maybe unsure of what the processes were or what the contact strategy was. I could give real examples of that. So things like how the mortgages work, how the junior ISA work, because when that was launched earlier, 2024, I knew exactly the sign-up process. So you could then go and help other board members understand what that full process looked like, opposed to just being a board member and looking in, and thinking, how does that work? So I've been able to kind of tie my own day-to-day business skills with being an actual member of the board, a member of the credit union, but then obviously using that to help me thrive as an actual non-exec.
Everyone's trying to get your attention. Invest your money here, put your money there, do this with your money, you should be saving this, you should be doing that. Is that a challenge for the credit union? And alongside taking that into consideration, what other challenges do you think that the credit union faces with that in mind?
Well, obviously I'm not here to give any financial advice first and foremost, that's not my background. But you know, there's challenges, people know the challenges that are out there with money, etc., savings, borrowing, interest rates increasing, energy prices going up. So people are a wee bit more cautious what they're doing with it. It's like anything else, do your own research, but do something that fits into what you want to achieve in life. And I think that it goes back to what we spoke about earlier in terms of my journey, understanding what a credit union was as a young kid, but growing into my adult life, again, just keeping that journey going. But by me saving for my own kids' future through things like the Junior ISA, I'm able to educate my kids so they become future credit union savers, borrowers, etc. So it kind of keeps that going. But to kind of go back to the original question, is that it's, you know, make informed decisions about what suits your financial needs, etc. But if people look into credit unions more and see that the positive work that they're doing, I think more and more people, especially, you know, of my age generation, that they should be looking into credit unions, and they should be putting their savings and even just utilising borrowing with them.
Obviously, in terms of raising that awareness and getting people to look more into the Capital Credit Union is obviously a big focus for the board. But how does the credit union stay true to its community-based values whilst also trying to attract all these other people in terms of that investment and doing different things different with their money?
Well, the ethos stays the same. All credit unions are members first, so they're not for profit. You know, at the end of the day, they're there to serve the members. So all the decisions made at board level are with members in mind. You know, so that's really important ethos. There's also a strong ethos around Capital Credit Union and other credit unions, for that matter, around the financially excluded. So the people out there that don't have the same financial options as someone with, you know, a perfect credit rating, or they've got no financial history of making some poor financial decisions. So members are at the heart of everything that we do, and I can see that. You know, I always was aware of it as a member, because you see the information that's going out and the sort of marketing that they're doing, and you know, the information that they're sending to their members. But I now see that even more as a board member, because I'm sat around the table with, you know, 9 other people on the board, and you can see that at the heart of every decision they make, it's like, what's best for our members, you know, and I think that's really, really important.
Why was now the right time for you to join the board of directors?
It's a weird one, really, because at the start of 2024, I'd said to my wife I had a really, really positive 2023 with my personal life, my own business. Felt that things were in a really good place, and you know that way, like, people start New Year's resolutions, etc. And I'd sat down at the beginning of 2024 and thought, like, this is a year I want to give something back. So silly things like I joined up as a helper at my kids' football team, you know, just volunteering, you know, 2 nights of training a week, games on a Saturday, sponsoring the team, that sort of thing. So just giving a little bit back to my son, first and foremost. I'm at the training anyway, but helping the other kids as well, like picking some kids up, etc. And that really fitted in well to Capital, because I've seen that as an opportunity to also give back, and that's exactly what I've done. So it's been a really positive 9 months.
So what do you think sets the credit union apart from other financial institutions, like normal savings accounts, and obviously going through that journey of buying multitude of houses and moving homes and saving with them? What sets them apart from anything else?
I think it's more community led. A lot of credit unions can be classed as a community bank, if you want to call it that. I just think that what they do outside of the credit union is really, really important. I know they've really strong partnerships with the local community that they're based in. But more than that, it's, you know, that feel of, you know, a personal feel to it. You know, I think most corporations now, you're dealing through, you know, computers or telephones, etc. Whereas with the credit union, you can put sort of faces behind it. I just think that sort of personal touch was really important.
And how do you think the Capital Credit Unions positively impacted your family's financial well-being?
It's not, at the time I didn't have other options. I just felt like, for me, because I grew up knowing what a credit union was, and then when the opportunity came to save, I just seen that that was more of a clearer path for me that just made a bit more sense.
In terms of that being that clearer sense, obviously, and you being aware of it from a young age, it's not really something that has been, I know obviously it was just across the street from you and you were aware of it, but it's not something that's ultimately out there for the younger generation at the moment. So how do you think that that can change and have a more positive impact on youngsters moving forward?
I think awareness is key. I think knowing what a credit union is, knowing that, you know, there's opportunities to save, there's opportunities to borrow, but there's also the impact that if you save with a credit union, what happens with your money next. You know, I know with credit unions, they do help financially excluded, for example, which I think is amazing. People that don't have any other choices out there. So the fact that just by saving, you get obviously the interest back in your money, which is important, but more importantly, it's what they do with that money. Whereas, you know, you don't see big corporations or, you know, banks, etc. You don't really see them giving back in the same sense, especially at a local level. It would be more of a national level, which tend to, not that they need it any less, but I think helping the local community is more important.
And you've been through that journey yourself, obviously, in terms of getting the house and what you've spoke to me about, what obviously attracted you to going into a credit union. But later on now down the line, you've now joined as a board member, non-executive director of the board. Tell me how you first became aware of the position and what then attracted you to it.
Well, for me personally, you know, being with the credit union for 10 plus years, 2 mortgages, you know, I saved for my 3 kids. I just felt like when I'd seen the advert appearing up and they were looking for someone with a marketing background, I just felt like, you know, I potentially could give something back to something that's given me and my family so much. And it's not just me, you know, my sister's got a mortgage with credit union, she saves, my brother saves, you know, so we're all members of Capital, we're very pro Capital Credit Union. But I just felt that something that had given a lot to me and my family, I thought that I could volunteer and give some time back and hopefully help them on that next journey as they look to grow.
We've obviously spoke about juniorisers there. What do you think is important about educating young people in terms of following that education that you've given to your kids and using juniorisers for like the Capital Credit Union?
For me, I think there's a massive gap in education in general. I think from schools, there's a lot of things that schools don't teach as much as the greatness that they do, and I'm a big fan of the work that teachers do because I see the 3 kids I send out every morning and I know they've probably got a handful. But for me, I think there's a massive gap in financial education as a whole. So as a parent, especially in the current climate, I think to save for your kids' future is really, really important because we don't know what lies ahead in terms of the price of property might just keep going up, and will kids be able to afford to buy houses one day? You know, that might just keep increasing. Will the salaries keep going up at the rate that property is increasing, the rate of inflation, etc.? So for me, I've always been really switched on. You know, I thought sort of light bulb moment when my oldest son was born, which was 12 years ago, and I always thought, you know, I need to work a bit harder now. I've got another mouth to feed. But I used to just save locally in terms of like an instant access through my own bank. But it's like you go to Smith's Toy Stores or you go to JD Sports and, you know, it's like, oh, can I get this, Dad? Can I get that? And you're trying to then teach them about, well, you've got some money in your own bank, you know, do you really want that t-shirt or that toy? And they would end up just using all the money. So that it wasn't really saving, it was more educating them how to use money. But as I've got older and the economy's changed, I really looked into the juniorisers. And obviously when we launched one with Capital Credit Union this year, I thought that's a no-brainer. You know, I save for them, each kid, you know, and it can be as little as, you know, £10 a month, £50 a month, £100 a month, whatever you could afford. But I just save regularly for each of the 3 kids, and that's locked in till they're 18. So at least then I know that, you know, it's locked in, but it's also grown. So at the end of the day, if they want to then continue saving in the same way when they turn 18, they can, or they may want to take the money out and, you know, buy their first car or a deposit for a property, etc. So I think saving as a whole is really, really important, and I'm trying to drill it into my kids at a really young age.
And then once they're 18, Dad doesn't need to pay for anything beyond that.
Hopefully.
Right, so you mentioned there in terms of that positive impact of saving with your kids. What do you see in them, even at an early age, of the understanding of saving money that's now impacting their ISA?
Well, for me, personally, my kids, it's a two-way street. So if my child wants something, so my oldest boy might want a pair of trainers, and I'm a firm believer that nothing should be off the table, but you should either earn it or we should take it from somewhere else. So for my oldest son, if he comes and says, "Dad, can I get the latest Nike trainers," for example, I'll say to him, well, we can do it one of two ways. What are you going to do? Are you going to do these chores? Are you going to help me at work? Are you going to help your mum? Or do we take some money out your junior ISA, your future savings? And when you relate it to the money, it's amazing the mindset changes. It's, oh, don't take money out my savings pot, They want to keep that in there. So I can already see the signs at an early age that they know that's important because it's for their future, which I think is really key.
Obviously, for a younger generation, and we're of similar age, a credit union isn't really something, and I know it was across the road from you. You told me a story off camera there about your mates talking to you about joining the credit union. Talk me more about their view on it and how we change that.
Yeah, funny story is I was telling my friend that I joined the board of directors and I had my mortgage with them, and it was like, is everything okay? Like, is business doing okay, and etc. And my friend was like, what is a credit union? Is that like where you go in and like you can trade your PlayStation and get money back? And I was thinking, they're thinking like a cash converting type place, that. So I then had to do the whole educational piece for them in terms of, no, this is what a credit union is, and took them onto the website, and I was like that, it's like a community-led bank where, you can go in, you save your money, but this is all the stuff that they do with it, this is all the people they help, and the rates are also very good as well when you then need to borrow. So it opened their eyes to it, and it just shows you like there must be a certain perception out there of credit unions. And for me personally, I think we touched on it earlier about what would I like to see. I would like to see the perception of credit union change over the next sort of 2, 3, 4, 5 years in terms of what people think that we are and then what people know that we are.
And how do you do that?
We'll do that through a series of educating people, like videos like this today. We'll continue to update people through things like social media, where it'll engage with that maybe next generation of credit union savers and borrowers. So we'll keep going on that path, working really, really closely with the business development team to really drive that message forward.
So we obviously go through your experiences and why you've joined the board, but if there's anyone else that's considering that similar volunteering path, why should they choose Capital Credit Union as a volunteer, and why should they consider joining the board?
For me, it's two-way. I think, my own personal journey was about giving back to something that had given me so much. But now that I've been sat there for 9 months, it's a two-way street. I've learned so much. You're sitting working with, some really, really successful people within finance. You're doing loads of networking. So I've had the opportunity to go out and meet some of the partners at Capital Credit Union, which has been invaluable. It's opened doors for me in my personal life as well. So I think it's really, really important to know that it's not just about giving up your time, joining calls, going to meetings. There's an element there that you can get back from it as well, whether that be through volunteering and feeling like you're helping, or it might open doors and make some introductions for you in your personal life or personal business.
So given the current climate, what do you think are the biggest challenges for a capital credit union at the moment?
Well, first and foremost, this is personal views. This isn't the views of the board, etc. But from a personal level, I think around the full sector, so not necessarily just Capital Credit Union, I would look at credit unions as a whole, or any sort of mutuals, small building societies, etc. I think awareness, it's that next generation. I'm 37 years young, but it's about educating that next generation. I'm okay because I'm familiar with it and I'm educating my kids to come up, but I don't think there's enough awareness out there. And the biggest risk to any business is new customers, and new customers is new members. So as many young people as possible to sign up to the credit union and just save what you can afford, or there may be an opportunity to borrow. If you're thinking of going out and getting that next car, there's opportunities to go and get that finance through your local credit union, not just necessarily through the traditional ways.
We hear about how you've educated your own kids to obviously save and use a capital credit union, and you talk there about obviously educating in that same way in a sense. But how does Capital Credit Union use technologies to get your attention. It's your TikToks, it's your Instagrams, and it's what's happening in food and what's happening in leisure and so forth. And maybe that isn't as prominent in terms of that space. So how do they capture the younger generation's attention?
I think one of the strong things, and I'm relating to Capital Credit Union here, I think the industry as a whole probably don't do enough. I don't think there's enough credit unions that are, social media savvy. They're not active enough on their Facebook, their Instagrams, their TikToks. They're not doing things like this, which is about educating people through video and podcasts, etc. So I think that's a real gap. But one thing Capital Credit Union are good at is they're good at being first. So they've got loads of firsts to their name, and technology is one of the things around that. They've got an app, that you can use. So as a member, I've got an app. I can log into the app. I can see my savings. I can check where my mortgage is at. I can check when dates. I can upload payments through that app system as well. So from a tech point of view, they're probably ahead of a lot of the other credit unions that are out there. And from a marketing point of view, they're active on Facebook. They're active on Instagram. They are recording videos like this to engage with the next generation. So I think that a lot of other credit unions could probably take note of that and potentially jump on it and really just drive the movement rather than just capital.
Talking about driving that movement and getting that awareness piece, if we're someone that's sitting here watching this video today, what would be your message to them in terms of joining and considering getting in touch with credit union for the first time?
I think research it, go on, have a look at the website. I think that's really, really important. And listen, this is for Capital Credit Union. It might not be your most local credit union, but we're a big fan of the movement in general, and I think the more people that know about credit unions in general helps everyone. But go on, have a look at the website. You'll be shocked at the different options that are there. If you've got kids, go and research. The save what you can afford for your kid. You might be planning for one of your child's weddings in 5-10 years time. So why not put the money into the credit union? And the money, what they do with your money will amaze you in terms of community, helping local people, rather than just putting it into a national bank, etc. And they're not helping the local community out.
You were inspired to join the Capital Credit Union. You've heard fellow board members talk about what their hopes and admirations are for it. But for you personally, what are your hopes and admirations for it in terms of the future of the Capital Credit Union?
For me, I think we're on a really exciting journey just now. I think that the current government's very pro credit unions as well, which is good for the movement in general, which will only help more people. So for me, I think we're on a really exciting journey to drive the credit union forward. And I think for me, it's how many more people can we help? But in order to help people, we need more people to save. Because when people save, we then use that money to then help people get loans, help the financially excluded, etc. So for me, the biggest aspiration is just to keep on growing. We obviously want to get bigger and bigger. 1,000 just now, members. I want to see that get to 40, 50, 60,000 as a member first, but also as a board member as well.
Well, we wish you all the very best on your journey and thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you very much.
Cheers.